Welcome to the Ask Devslop show, where in this episode we're joined by Alex, Australia's only hacker. Taking a break from educating one of the many former Prime Ministers of Australia on cybersecurity, they'll be joining us today to talk about how everyone's out here being like, yes, this is secure, or oh no, no it isn't. Alex will also be sharing with us the wonders and benefits of the widely applicable yet often maligned process, the scientific method. And a reminder to stick around until the end of the show today, where we have a 1-year Burp Suite license to give away to one lucky viewer. But only if you ask a question in the chat. Make sure you end your question with a question mark for it to account. But first, a message from our sponsor, Datadog. Hey, Alex, welcome.
Hello,
God,
thanks for having me on the show today.
We're here. It started. How's it going, everyone?
Next. I'm awake.
That's good. Yeah, we love to see it. We love to hear it. Cool.
I think I'm wearing the same shirt as Beck, maybe?
Are you matching?
Close enough. I think so.
That's so cute.
I'm into it.
That's adorable.
Cool.
Alrighty.
Okay.
I see some familiar usernames in the chat, so I'm very keen to hear everybody's questions. Let's get it going. Alex, talk to me. What is red teaming? I want to know.
Me too, in a way. But the problem is sometimes you work, this is red teaming in the context of working at a company, but it applies to like lots of things too. But sometimes you work at a company and you want to know, is it secure? That's a lot to ask. You can't just say that, because it's like, oh, if we don't have any vulnerabilities written down, then it's secure. Or like, oh, if we get a security number and that number goes down, is it secure? How do we know? And you don't, because the old saying, you don't know what you don't know. So red teaming is where you just test your idea. You test whether your company is secure or whatever you're trying to secure. The only way you can test it, which is by testing in production, by having somebody try and do whatever you're afraid of happening. So in this case, it's getting somebody to try and hack you exactly like you're worried that someone will hack you for real, but they don't actually hack you. They don't control the data on the dark web. And by actually testing it out, then you have actually measured something. You have actually got some information about whether something that you've done will actually help with something.
So red teaming is like professional testing in production.
I guess it's too late now. I guess I said that on stream, so
sure. All right,
go.
You heard it here first, folks.
I have a question.
Testing in production.
Apparently, there's like an interesting background history to red teaming and like where it all started. Do you have any idea about what that is?
Then the first ever recorded red teaming.
Yeah. Talk to us.
The first. Oh, I mean, I guess I might know about that. The first one that I heard about was the people who started red team were the Pope and friends back in the day. Apparently, this is the first one that anyone could find written down. When somebody wanted to be the Pope, they would have somebody else within the like Pope gang be the devil's advocate in a much more literal sense, where like they would think that the person should be the Pope. Be like, yeah, we all think this person should be the Pope. That's good. But just to make sure that we're not making a mistake, we're going to get this guy to try their best to tell us why this person shouldn't be the Pope, and try and find secret information about them, like try and cancel them, try and be like, no, this person being the Pope is bad, even though they actually believe the person being the Pope is good. They like act as they are the devil. They act and try and talk everybody out of it. And if they succeed, then they have a valid reason why this person should not be the Pope. But if they fail to do that, then it's like, okay, good. Well, we tried to disprove it, and we couldn't disprove it, so this person probably should be the Pope. That's what I heard.
Well, Fun fact, I actually have a degree in like church history and stuff because it turns out that if you go to university and you take all the courses they literally have about witchcraft, that's what you get. And so I am in a unique position to confirm that what you said is 100% historically accurate. So thank you. You got
Things
it.
we
10
thought
points.
we'd never hear on this stream.
Excellent
Just
fact
saying.
check.
Yeah. But I actually do have like a relevant question, which is more about red teaming than about the Pope. Just to bring it a little back on topic, which is very off-brand for me, but we'll roll with it. How much knowledge should a red team have about the business they're red teaming? Like, is it better if the red team doesn't know anything? Is it more effective if they're coming in like actual real criminals? Well, like if you're working inside, you have like secret insider knowledge that would allow you to do things they couldn't otherwise do?
I wouldn't know anything about what actual real criminals would do, but in the context of red teaming, I don't know how much knowledge they should have, but inevitably they're going to have some amount of knowledge because they work at the place, right? So they're going to know something about it, and that's okay, because like if you have knowledge about the place you work, that doesn't mean you have to use it, right? You can be like, okay, well, I know that there's this particular way I could get in or something, but could a real attacker know that? And if you want to use that, you have to show that a real attacker could know that. So, for example, if you have some internal information, you have to say, well, look, here that is on the internet, like here it is on someone's LinkedIn profile or something. And so therefore an attacker could look at this LinkedIn profile and they could get it. Or you could be like, well, this like, I can't find this particular URL that lets us get into this thing. I can't find it on the public internet, but it's like the kind of URL that you could just guess. It's not like, doesn't have like a long random string in it. Someone could probably just find this URL if they're scanning the whole internet. So like, that's fair, it's public, and a hacker can find it. But if you can't show that, you just don't use that information because you're like, well, it's not a good test anymore because we're not testing a thing that could actually happen. So we better not do that test. We better do a realistic test.
Yeah, so you kind of have to like stop yourself from using the insider knowledge that you've got kind of swimming around in your brain just to make it fair and to make it accurate, right?
Exactly. And sometimes it's a downside to have insider knowledge because then like if you have the knowledge, you are less likely to try and come up with your own way of doing it. So like you're kind of spoiled with it. So we sometimes have like some people on the team know, some people don't know, and we try and like come up with ways to do something. And sometimes people who don't know like think of something that we didn't think of.
Yeah, I really love it to like have it be in a company and have part of my role be to literally not know how things work at my job. That I feel like
that's me every day, so I would like
thing. Well, exactly. It's just like legitimizing the thing we all know is true.
Now I'm paid to not know what the hell I'm doing.
Exactly.
You love to see it.
Someone links to your page. Can you read this? And it's like, oh, sorry, that would compromise my. No, sorry.
Yeah, sorry. I see Confluence. I simply do not look.
It's like how authors can't read fan fiction of their own works because then they can't like get, you know, they might get sued because they got inspiration from stuff, like it's a whole legal quagmire. So pretty much what I'm saying is all internal wikis are fan fiction.
Intriguing.
Yeah, I think it's exactly like a fan fiction thing.
I would 100% agree with that because whenever I write documentation, I always come in with it from like the most ideal perspective, and then as time goes on you need to feed that in with like user feedback, which is always not things that you want to know. It's like cursed knowledge sometimes.
So there are some times I write documentation like, here team, here's this documentation, not up for comment, sorry, not taking concrete on this. It has simply been published, no feedback required, move along.
It is on a wiki, but don't get the wrong idea.
No, don't get the wrong idea. It's not user pool here.
I have a quick question, Alex, and this is something I'm often curious about from people who work in the industry of organized legal cybercrimes. What, in your opinion, is the benefit of having an internal red team versus like bringing on board an external red team? And you know, as a side question, like how do these, like, can you see how these complement each other?
Yeah, of course. And they're both good, right? They're both good. There's two different things. If you have like an internal red team, then it's like more specialized. The people will have like, you know, they might have like a I mean, the first time it'll be kind of similar, but they'll get more and more experience with your particular company or tech stack or whatever it is that they're attacking, and they'll know like, oh, well, we've done this before, we haven't done this before, let's try this. No one's ever hacked this, and they have all that delicious internal information which can help them make better decisions. Not in terms of acting like an attacker, but afterwards when they're like telling you about it or something, they like understand you better usually. Right. But the advantage of having a technical red team is they often have wider experience because they've attacked lots of different environments, and so they try stuff that the internal team wouldn't try, and the internal teams try stuff that the external one wouldn't try. They're both just different. I think they're both good.
Has there ever been a case of like doing a swap, like a spouse swap kind of thing, where you get the red team from one big company and the red team from another big company and just swap them and you like have fun?
That would be
it's
so
called
good.
a spouse swap, and no, it's not called a spouse swap. Not that I know of. That would probably just be a crime at that point. It's like they're not allowed to hack the company that they're hacking, but if they were allowed to for some reason, that could be fun.
I mean, if it was sanctioned, like I reckon that you could probably have a really good time with that. Not just like for the lulz, but actually you would get a lot of benefits out of it. I probably shouldn't be giving away these ideas for free on the internet like this.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is your next startup. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Copyrighted IP, everybody.
You can offer like the 40 to 50 page NDA that someone would have to sign to make that happen.
Yeah,
as like a startup hack.
Right now.
Yeah.
Everybody watching right now, you'll have an NDA in the mail. Sorry.
You'll be hearing from my attorney.
I can't help but ask Lily the question of what point does that just become hacking back?
Yeah, okay.
I can see the gears turning in her head.
Yeah,
it would depend on like which company swapped with which one, wouldn't it?
I think it would.
Sorry,
I mean, the other really good thing is what we could do is we could swap like an external red team with an internal red team, and we don't have nearly as much contractual work to do, which I think is a benefit for everyone. I think I've also just re-described consulting, but that's okay.
We don't go back there. We don't go back there.
The whole purpose of the tech industry is to reinvent things that have been like perfectly cromulent things since forever. So,
like
absolutely,
like crime.
It's like crime.
Tell us
it's
about
just
crime.
It's just embiggened crime.
Sorry, I was going to say, like, what is technically the difference then between something like, and this is not a diss because I participate in them, but like bug bounties and like external pen testing. If it's not just sort of like a more gig economy version of the same thing.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think anyone has the answer to that, right?
They're like, don't ask me. I'm not here with the answers.
Yeah,
Anyone
sorry.
I have a spicy opinion on the topic.
I'm looking for a keynote speaker on this, so.
Oh, don't ask me then. I retract my one.
Go ahead, baby.
I mean, like in my mind, the difference between a bug bounty hunter and like an actual red teamer is a bug bounty hunter is out there kind of, I mean, I'm about to like low-key diss bug bounty hunters. Please do not come after me. It's not a diss. This is from my personal perspective. It's definitely not a diss, but I feel like bug bounty hunters are out there kind of going for the low-hanging fruit and looking for vulnerabilities and things that most like bug bounty hunters might, try the same exploit on a number of different organizations. Like they might say, oh, here's a new thing. Let's go spray and pray. And like, there's some knowledge. I'm not saying that you don't know what you're doing, but you get what I'm saying. Whereas a red teamer is kind of going from an end-to-end attack scenario, doing the recon.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Like, it's almost like, I don't know how long you would do super well as a red teamer if that's all you were doing. Yes. Whereas you can also make a little bit of a mini career out of, firing nuclear templates at a bunch of boxes on the internet.
Yeah, I feel like as a bug bounty hunter, like if I was in that position, I would be like, poke, poke, poke. That's too hard. Moving on to the next one. Poke, poke, poke.
Right.
Whereas a red teamer might be more, have to work things fully end to end, and it's like a much longer process, and it's a much more involved process. But keen to hear dissenting thoughts. Don't want to get too spicy.
Cool. Okay. Well, I've injected enough controversy for now. So
Beck, I see you. You wanna
I do have a question. A question. What are, in your experience, Alex, like what are some of the metrics that you can use to quantify the value of a red team?
It's complicated and probably won't make sense outside of the places I work. But one that probably will is there's lots of different like benefits. Like some there's some controversial takes. Some people's take is that the most useful thing the red team does is write the like blog post telling the story of how the like operation went, because then people get to like learn about it and they're like, wow, wait, security is real. Damn, that's crazy. But there's also the like measuring what would happen if a real attacker did something, which is like the scientific method part of it. And I think a good way to measure that is how severe we have like an incident severity scale, and it's like the more severe the incident is, it doesn't mean like, oh, the red team is such cool two guns hackers because they're doing big crime, but it's like a company is more afraid of the high severity incidents. That's the thing that they want to avoid. So that's the scenario that you want to test. So like higher severity incidents are better. High severity incidents caused by the red team, to be clear, not by actual hackers.
And when you're talking about those like causing those incidents, how do you make sure that like the red team's approaches don't become stale and blind to like the way that has always traditionally worked?
In some ways you can't do that, right? In some ways it's possible to know what you are being biased towards. Like everyone has biases and like you can't avoid them. But the way we like try, you can at least try to. The way we try to do that is we try and just avoid doing something we've done before. If we're like, oh, we've already attacked that, well, let's not go anywhere near that. Or like, let's try and come up with some crazy idea for an op that no one's ever done before, let alone us, and try and find a stylistic way to do it. Basically trying to just like ignore the first like 3 ideas we come up with and then start coming up with weird ones.
Yeah. And so when you're thinking of those ideas, are you like thinking about goals and outcomes that you think will bring value and do like whiteboarding? Like what is the process?
What process do you mean exactly?
Like the process of coming up with the incident or the scenario that you're going to test for your red team exercise.
Oh, like how do we choose what op to do?
Yeah.
The only things with like the definition of like an operation or exercise or whatever is the goal of it, and like the goal might be to get this data, or it's usually this data, but it might be to like compromise this thing, this machine, this place, and also who we are pretending to be, like which like attacker we are trying to be, and like we don't have enough information to say exactly which attack, like, we have this APT group or we have this random cybercrime gang or whatever. That's kind of too hard. So if we can, we would love to, but generally we just try and like categorize, like, are we a random cybercrime group? Are we like a very good APT group? Are we like total scrub tier hackers? Like, what do we want to simulate? And then also, does this goal make sense to them? Like, do they want to do that? Like cybercrime people, they mostly just want to do ransomware. They mostly just want to make money. So like if we have a different goal, it doesn't quite fit with them. So
yeah,
that's what we're trying to find. And how do we come up with those things? I don't know. It's a dark and mysterious process.
Done over the shadow of night, I'm presuming.
Yeah, there's candles.
That's cool. I get mine from dusk. Is that where red teamers go?
Yeah, that's where we go to get our witchy stuff.
I get my candles from dusk too. Oh my god, are we dusk buddies?
I think we might be. Let's talk about this afterwards.
No, let's not. I'm joking.
Let's talk about it now. Everyone wants to know. What I want to know is a bit more about like how much red teaming is like method acting, or like do you have to go full into that mode of like understanding why certain kinds of adversaries are doing what they're doing? Like how do you get into that mindset, and do you speak in an accent for a month?
Oh my god, do you role
what
play?
Do you do?
Yeah, we to fully locate attackers, we stopped using Slack and we started using Discord for all our red team stuff. Yep. And we're like, yeah, this is great. We also have I have 2 laptops. I have my like work laptop that Atlassian like knows about and has software on and monitors and everything. And I have my crime laptop, which is like unwatermarked, untraceable, just like a normal laptop. And that's where we do all our operating. And we have like my real name is not on my crime laptop. We all have like dumb crime alias names because, well, they're like the video is like if we accidentally leak it, it's not obvious that it's like it's Alex doing this. If you accidentally leak your like username or something, I don't know. So yeah, we have a whole like different operator persona world, and in terms of like actually making decisions about like what would the real attacker do, kind of the objectives describes it all, right? So it's like oh, we're trying to steal this particular data and not get caught. Those are usually the objectives, right? And so it's like, maybe the way in which they would avoid getting caught is like different or something. And honestly, like they care about not getting caught like way more than we do because we're not actually doing a crime, and so it's hard to like care about it as much as they would.
Yeah. What happens at the end of a red team if you are caught? Like, or you can't meet the goal that you set out to meet? Like, what happens then?
That's okay. What depends if we like run out of time or something, or we're like not getting the objective, like we're not getting far enough, we just keep trying until we do. Like there's like you just keep going until you eventually do get right. You just keep try harding and eventually it'll happen. But what happens if you get caught? That's totally normal. That's totally legit. Like sometimes if you get caught on purpose because you want to, it's like you've done the objective and it's time to trigger incident response, or you actually get caught for real, then usually you don't know because the edit you don't like. In theory, I guess we could go and look up internally what's going on, but like we don't do that. So there's one person who's like the game moderator, and they know everything that the red team's doing, and they know everything that the like incident response detection team is doing, and they are the ones who like we wouldn't know we've got caught unless they tell us. So generally we would just keep operating, and we might be like, that's strange. That access that we had just disappeared suddenly. That's probably that could be bad. That could be us getting kicked out. Or we don't even realize and we just keep doing stuff, and then generally it's like game on. We just keep trying to get stuff, keep trying to persist, keep trying to dodge whatever they're doing until their game moderator is like, okay, stop operating now, please stop. Everyone's doing incident response time now.
How long was the longest campaign that you did, the longest attack?
Like months, a couple of months, like I don't know, like 3-4 months kind of time. Maybe, I don't know exactly, around that kind of time.
Yeah, okay, cool. Now I was kind of wondering, if you have to keep trying, I assume you draw that line somewhere, so that could be, I assume you have reasons for doing that? Like, you just...
Really, we spend most of our time, like, preparing, and then, like, not much of the time actually operating, because we're like, okay, we want to do this. Oh, we need this, like, ridiculous software that doesn't exist, or this, we need to test out this crazy idea we have for malware, and that takes a lot of time doing, like, R&D. And then once we actually have it, we're like, cool, let's use it. And that part takes, like, like, less than half the time, maybe less than a quarter.
Do you
So
spend
like,
any
Jira
time
for crimes? Sorry.
So, Lily?
Do you have like a Jira for crimes? Like if you're at Atlassian, you've got like a whole wall.
No, because we make Jira, and so we can't use our own software because just in case it's like, I don't know, going to like attribute us somehow. So we have.
This is why I wondered.
We have the software of one of our competitors, which we use for our red team crimes separately. We like self-host it, and unrelated. One time we like met with that company's red team to like ask them about their software. We were like, oh yeah, we use your software for red teaming because we can't use our software. And they're like, same, we use your software.
That's so
This
cute.
is a perfect candidate for the team
The
swap.
spell swap.
Swap?
Yes.
The
Right,
spell
wow.
swap.
That's
I have a question.
indescribably sweet.
Yeah.
I have a follow-up question about like the how long does it take to run an engagement thing. Do you spend you mentioned that you spend a lot of time kind of setting up and not a lot of time operating. Do you spend any time sitting on infrastructure to try and let it age out and become less sussy? Like if you were to register a domain or something like that, would you kind of let it marinate for a little bit before you start operating? Yeah. So you would kind of set up like way in advance to let it sit.
Yeah. I mean, especially with domains, like not many things need to age that much. But like maybe if you like hack into something and then just kind of wait for a while before you start doing something. Usually we don't have time for that because it's like, no, we want to finish the op, but like it can happen. And with domains, we usually just buy like, if we're buying some domains, we're like, okay, let's buy a lot and let's just buy whatever dumb ones we can think of, and maybe some will hit later. Cool. Or you can also just buy recently expired domains. I hear is the cool kid trick, but I haven't done that yet.
This is the cool trick, the cool kid trick that I am a big fan of, is where you just like wait for interesting domains to lapse, and you can buy them for very cheap, because the best part about it is generally by the time you're done with your op or doing whatever it is you're doing with it, you can generally on-sell it to the person who legitimately wanted it, and then that bad reputation is no longer yours to deal with.
Question mark profit.
Exactly.
Simples. Chef's kiss.
I
had
have a
a-
question. Sorry, Beck.
I was just going to say, Israel asked what the shortest engagement was that you've been on.
I think they're all like a couple of months in length. Like there's no like, oh, let's try and hack this. Oh, it's done. That was easy. Like we haven't had, like, we had ones that ended earlier than we were expecting, but like it's mostly because planning how long, predicting how long these things are gonna take is like, I don't know if it's literally impossible, but it's like so hard. There's so many unknown things. Like how long will it take you to hack into this thing? You're like, well, I don't know what that thing is, or how to hack into it, or how to make the software, or whether it's possible to hack into that, or like there's so little information on how it will take, and you're like, yeah.
Also, like what you'll find if you do get in that might.
Yeah, like once we get in, we'll find something which will take somewhere from 0 to like 100 years to solve.
Yeah.
And it's like, but we do.
Have you-
we do just do it.
Have you ever like stepped into an environment and just like instantly triggered an incident where like the IR team is just like, something is happening and you're like, oh no, what have we done? What did we do? What are we gonna do?
There's often like a couple of times like I found out like, oh we've been detected. What did I do? I wonder what I did that like causes detection. And then later I find out, I'm like, that's so valid. That's so fair. I completely get that. But not instantly to my knowledge.
Another one about, I suppose we've talked a little bit about like length of engagement. How do you know when to stop? Like, when do you know enough is enough?
Well, I mean, that's why we have the objective, right? Like you have exactly the same goal, and sometimes you have like side quests or whatever to do. But usually, once you do that objective, you can stop operating. You don't have to. You can also do like, generally you want it to be the most realistic you can. So it's like when you've already done the objective, you've already got whatever data you want. Then you can be like, well, let's set up backdoors and let's try and be stealthy and let's just try and keep this access for a long time. And then once you're like done doing that, then you can be like, okay, well, we haven't got detected. We need to get detected so they can. Otherwise, there's no red team up if we don't get caught. So we need to make ourselves get caught, and so we need to come up with some realistic way of getting caught. We don't just want to turn ourselves in. We want to make it seem like we're getting caught for real. And then, but like you do that when you are done doing like your, I don't know, victory lap preparations, where you like go and set up all your backdoors and you go and like make sure you've looked at everything you want to look at and done as much cybercrime as you think that the attacker would do. Then you can do that.
Very
How
cool.
do you,
Actually, when I say victory, when I say victory lap, that's probably like highly toxic of me. It's not a competition. It's not like you win.
No,
it's not like you're better than the other team. Like the red team and the blue team, they're like on the same team. They want the same things. They work at the same place.
Yeah.
They like talk to each other. It's not like a competition.
There's the development team though as well, right? Who's involved in this process for the product. Yeah. And like, if they were like a little bit mean or sassy about a report at some point, you could definitely victory lap them.
It's like, please, sir, don't do that. It's like, we all work in the same place. If someone's mean, it's like, okay, I get it. It's like a stressful situation. It's like our team goals are like, number one, we're friends with like the other teams. The two, we do crime. Like,
Very
helpful.
Yeah.
I feel like we have in like, you know, I'm on the blue team side, and with the red team, it's like we have a little kind of like a little joking like victory lap scoreboard where we're like, you got us, we got you, like kind of, but then at the end we're like, let's all just get together, have a big group hug, and like it's all about the goals, right? Like I actually want them to win because I would rather they do it than somebody else did, you know what I mean? And like learn new cool things. So I feel like it's super toxic, like you said, to get really upset and be like, oh, rah, 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 like you've hacked this thing and now I'm cranky. It's like, no, that's good. Like we love this.
Yeah, definitely. It's like our blue team asked us to do our blue team asked us to do this. It's like, we're doing this because you asked us to. Like we can stop if you want. We can not hack it.
Like, no, stop, tap out, tap out.
We've got other things to hack. Like it doesn't have to be you. Yeah.
And we usually try and think of like what we need to come up with something really good for the blue team. Like what will help them the most, what will help, like what will they
Nice.
what will they want to practice, what stuff will they want to see, and like we also just ask them that. We don't just like come up with it, we ask them what they want and like
Yeah.
try and do those things. So it's very much like they tell us what to do. Right? They tell us what to try and hack or how to try and hack or whatever. So
Yeah.
it's not like we're trying to mess with them.
I think it's interesting too because you're both coming from the perspective of being people who are familiar with security and familiar with the goals of the exercise. I think sometimes my perspective can be a little bit more product team focused, where you are potentially dealing with developers who don't necessarily understand what you do or don't necessarily. This is another spicy opinion, but don't necessarily see the value in security work.
No, that's so true. Yeah.
So I think that can change things as well, right? Like being on the same page about the outcome, I think is very important. It's a very, very good point.
Yeah, I've definitely in my career as well, like come up against some really interesting pushback, like being on the vulnerability management / like recon side, like the CTI side, where people are like, think it's almost a bit of a personal attack on them. Like, oh, you found this vulnerability, or you've
perfect code.
discovered this thing, and now like you're making me look bad, or it's a bit embarrassing. And it's like, hey, it's actually not about you. Like,
Yeah,
it's fine. This is good.
This is something we can do better, folks.
Yeah, for sure.
Nice.
I often, in my experience of dealing with businesses like that, I often find that it's like an indicator of a much larger cultural problem that plays out in like turf wars when it comes to security. Like, you'll have someone on the security team who is super aware that there are security issues and that they want to get buy-in from the board. So they'll order like a red team or a pen test or some sort of like offensive security job. And then because there's like already this cultural issue underlying it, when it comes to like remediation and actually getting problems fixed, everyone is pushing back because it's like, you've called my baby ugly. And it's like, no, we actually love your baby. Like, we love this product and we want to see it do better. But I think, as you said, Mimi, it's one of those things where they just take it really personally for some reason.
I can understand why.
The hardest.
Yeah, I can get that.
Yeah, for
We
sure.
don't exactly have that problem because like everything, we don't express opinions on whether we don't express opinions on whether like that password should have been in that GitHub repo. We just say
straight
it was
facts.
there and we used it. I'm not saying it's bad or good or anything. So
you kind of skip the moral judgment, because you can actually be like, we used it.
We don't about the moral judgment. We're just here to measure stuff. We're just here to and like you can like your thermometer shouldn't judge you and tell it, be like, hey,
you have a fever, you gross person, you Brussels sprout.
So it's like it's like fairly objective, right? Like you either did it or you didn't do it, and that's it.
So it's not like oh, hey, in my opinion, this is really bad. Oh yeah, exactly. It's not like, oh, we think this is a really bad way to do the software, and someone else can be like, well, no, I think it's good. That's fair. Whereas like, we did this thing. Do you like that? Do you not like that? I don't know, but you can decide whether you like that.
Interesting point. There's a question. I was just going to read out a question from the chat from one tall girl 78 who asked, from your experience, what's the most successful campaign that the red team has done to help improve security? Like what is something really cool that you figured out, if you can share? Otherwise might be a bit.
I don't even think, can I share anything about that? I don't think so. I don't want to get like instantly arrested.
All right.
The SWAT team drops out of the ceiling.
Yeah.
We've been waiting for this day.
Yeah, we've been sitting here silently watching.
Nice try, government agent.
One tall girl, if that even is your real name.
Yeah.
No,
all right.
Sorry,
no, that's okay. That's totally fine. Lily, I think you had a question that you were going to read out.
Yeah. Shailin Patel in the chat had asked, what tools and methods are necessary for the red team? So what kind of stuff are you using, more or less? I mean, we know you're not using Jira, but are there any particular methods that you use consistently, or is there anything that you do every single time that you think you couldn't live without if you had to get rid of it?
That's a good question. I
Apart
feel
from
like
a
first
laptop,
we do,
probably.
yeah, upgrade a laptop, very good. I feel like I need to disclaim at the beginning and also alienate 99% of the audience by saying that we don't hack Windows because we don't really roll that here. So I don't know. I keep hearing about this Mimi Cats thing. That sounds great. I'd like to just get
It wasn't
passwords.
me.
Yeah, yeah, we don't have that where I'm from, and so we're mostly attacking Mac and Linux. And so, what
I
tools do we
find.
use? Yeah,
Oh no, I was going to say I find it super interesting that can happen. That you have all of these like pockets of expertise. I'm the same. Like I'm not really a Windows focused person at all. I don't think I've ever used Mimikatz. So, I hear about it and I'm like, that sounds super cool. But talk to me more about Kerberos, I guess. But yeah, it doesn't enter into my life in a substantial way.
me either. And it's hard when I'm like learning about like, oh, let's see what people are talking about for red teaming. Let's learn how to do this. Okay, it's all Windows. Got it. They're like, step one, go to your Active Directory, and I'm like,
Yeah, like 80% of it is Kerberos, I think.
yeah, I know what that is. Yeah. Things that we actually use is some way to like have more than one IP address, some way to like obscure our actual IP address and to be able to change it. Like we can buy some commercial VPN provider and use their IP addresses. We can make our own VPN. We can like spin up random instances in like dodgy hosting providers or and proxy through those. We can like anything like that. Although we often, but not always, use malware. We need something. We need something for the We need a way for the malware to like talk back to us. So we've used like various different C2 frameworks. We had like a custom one. One time we used Metasploit. That was wild. And
I love
One
it. One time
time.
we used
What did you
Metasploit.
think?
That was.
I was like, I'm not sure if this is just really jank or I don't understand it, but I think it's a little bit of both.
I vote a little bit jank,
Okay.
I think
but I
it's
also
both.
probably don't understand it.
Yeah. I'm sure somebody understands Metasploit, but it's probably like the people who write books about how to understand Metasploit, I assume.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Alex,
maybe
Future
it's
show
my
idea.
experience.
Yeah.
We
I have
we
another
actually
question.
have
Oh, sorry, no. No, Beck, you go.
I have a question from the chat from Sales. How often are you employing things like social engineering to gain physical access to get a foothold into the network?
Right. So social engineering all the time whenever we want to. Physical access, we don't really do that, like, or haven't in a long time. Not because we don't want to. It sounds really fun. It sounds great. But we're like, when we're doing the beginning of the op, picking like who we're simulating and what is their goal, we can't really justify. We can't really come up with a situation where we're like, the most like a high risk thing is that somebody will physically try and break into a place to get physical network access. Not that I'm not saying it wouldn't work, like red teams do it all the time, but it's like mostly it's that like the pool of people who can do it is much smaller. It's only people who have physical access. Like if you live in a different country, you can't do physical access thing. And also the risk to the person is a lot higher because they have to physically go there. Their face might get seen, it might get tackled by a security guard or something. I don't know. And so we're not saying that it can't happen, but we're like, oh, it's probably much less likely to happen. Like it's like if I was trying to hack somewhere, my first plan would not be to physically go there. That's kind of too scary, and also it might be too far away. I would probably try and use the internet first. And so once we've eliminated the internet as an attack vector, then we can start trying to do that kind of thing.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. It's like the risk versus reward, right? And I guess also if you're like simulating what a real attacker would do, you have to kind of calculate like how badly does this person want the crown jewels or want what they're after, and how likely is it that these people exist? Like the pool, like you said, the pool of people who are going to try and actually break in versus the people who are, just going to try to do something remotely or via social engineering, like you said. So yeah, it's definitely an interesting one.
I could also see how people moving remote, like I know a lot of businesses moved away from having like on-premise corporate networks because those networks were no longer around. And so, trying to get physical access to offices that are unoccupied wouldn't bring a lot of value, especially as well when you also consider that a lot of people are moving to cloud services. And unless you have dedicated hosting, and you're going to ship in your Blade servers that are pre-compromised so you can try and move around, it wouldn't bring an awful lot of value at the moment, especially.
Yeah, for sure. I have a question, like, but if we're going back to the social engineering piece, like, what percentage of your successful kind of exploiting or getting a foothold into the network, what percentage of that is social engineering and what percentage of that is exploiting a vulnerability? How does that usually look for you?
I don't know. I probably couldn't say the exact percentages if I did know. But like some social, like yes, review social engineering, we love to do that, but it's like not everything. Although I noticed that you also said what percentage is exploiting vulnerability, which I guess brings me to the like topic of something that I realized is kind of strange about my job, which is that I guess I was noticing that never in my career have I exploited software, have I like exploited vulnerability in software in like all of my red teaming, all of my job before that, which is in 6 months. Not because, well, I'm pretty bad at it, but like I'm sure I could do it. But and it's not because I don't want to, or I guess it kind of is. It's not because I don't know how. I could probably do it badly. It's just that that would be the hard way. That's too hard. There's too many steps. It might not work. There might not be the right vulnerability there, or there might be a vulnerability, but it might not get me what I want at the time, or might be in the wrong thing. Like I've tried and been like, I can't find any. Maybe I'm just bad at finding them. But I mean, I don't know. Most red teamers I know are also doing this. It's just that exploiting vulnerabilities is too hard. It's a lot easier to just like, I mean, the most common way is you just phish someone. They give you their credentials because you phish them into doing that, and then you log into stuff, and then there's more credentials in that thing, and then you use those to log into more stuff, and you just keep logging into things, and eventually you log into the thing that has the thing that you're trying to steal, and you're like, we did
Red
it.
teaming 101, everybody.
This is like the
you just gotta log into stuff.
XKCD,
Yeah.
the pipe wrench, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Simply log in. This is the new
Just
slogan.
log into their account.
Really hard.
I mean, it makes sense. I mean, that makes sense though. Like exploiting vulnerabilities and trying to get those to work in an environment that you can't necessarily replicate one for one is going to be so much noisier than, hello, I am a legitimate user. Look at me with my multi-factor code. I will now take passwords. Please, thank you, goodbye.
Yeah.
I mean,
it totally checks out.
It's so unbelievably easy. I'm not a red teamer, but I have a story where like I had to do a social engineering call because I had a female voice and I needed to impersonate a female. And I just called up and was like, oh my God, I lost my phone and like I can't get like 2FA. You need to change my phone number. And they're like, no, we can't do that. I knew nothing about the person I was impersonating as well. I knew their first and last name, but I had to guess the email, like the way the email was, like J Smith or like Jane Smith, and I got it wrong twice, and they were like, do you even work here? And I started like fake crying, and I was like, I'm just really stressed, and it ended up working in the end. And I was just like, dude, I am not a red teamer. I don't know anything about what I'm doing. And I just pretended to cry on the phone, and they're like, oh my God, it works. I cry all the time.
People.
I cry all the time, at least once a week, and my God, I have good experience in crying, so you know it works. But brings me to my point is basically I personally think social engineering is the way to go. I think it's going to get you the best bang for your buck, right? Me being an idiot, not knowing what I'm doing, seemed to work.
Definitely.
They just need to learn how to cry. We all need to learn how to
I
cry.
got my new password, password SMS'd to my phone. And my phone set up as the SMS to a face. So I was like, okay.
Yeah, don't worry about like all of your nerd exploits and stuff. Just cry.
None of this Mimi cats. Do the Mimi cry, okay?
Mimi cry. Excellent. Oh,
instead of wanna cry, it's Mimi cry. That's it.
Coins
here, you will also be receiving a letter from my attorney. Don't get any ideas, anybody.
I do actually have a question about social engineering. How do you go about like reassuring the people that you do end up social engineering that, you know, they're helping you isn't like the failing that resulted in the red team being successful? It was a series of like consequence actions, and you know, they don't need to worry about job security or anything like that.
Oh yeah, you mean how do we not like victim blame, basically?
Yeah, pretty much.
yeah, I mean, the way it sounds, right? When we used to do that, the saddest part is that we can't we can't reassure them like exactly right after it happens. We have to like wait till we get caught later, and so like that we're kind of like we haven't done it in a while. I'm kind of wondering. I'm kind of thinking about stopping doing like real social engineering, not because it doesn't work, because like other people often feel bad from it happening, and like they feel bad when they get fished, like, even though it's like no, we don't care. We're not like, oh, how could you fall for that? It's like that's just gonna happen, or that whatever. Like it's nothing personal to this person, and like we don't like we anonymize them in reports and stuff, even though it should like we think it's fine, but like other people won't understand and they'll think that it's like a bad thing for them to fall for the fish or something. Like I'd fall for the same thing. It's like it's not like that.
Yeah.
It would
can't-
make
also-
offering drinks kind of awkward.
I also can't imagine like I think it'd be hard to imagine being someone as well who wouldn't feel at least a little bit responsible after being fished, right? Like it's pretty relatable.
Yeah, it's hard not to, even though you kind of get it. And it's like, it's not just that person. It's like, no matter what we do, we're going to be exploiting someone's mistake somewhere, right? Like,
Right.
if it's like software or like finding paths or whatever. But it feels so much more personal when it's phishing. So we do this like assume compromise model sometimes, where we're like, listen, we know phishing works. Let's just skip that part. Let's just be like, this person, please just, hello, I'm on the red team. Please run this code on your computer now. It's fine. It's legit. And they just do that. Or like,
We know phishing works. We know we can call you up and just cry and you'll do what we say.
yeah.
So let's skip
Do the
that
other stuff.
painful bit. That's amazing.
I
Like
have
also,
a
saves time. You can do more ops, right? Yeah, that way it saves like months. It's great.
I have a tangentially related question that I'd like to ask from the chat, actually. Robert asked, how much, if any at all, is red teaming based on random trials versus planned knowledge-driven efforts?
Oh, I don't know. I can't give this person a reward or something in the chat. But
Yeah,
like,
it's a good question.
if I could be doing professional randomized controlled trials, I would like die from scientific method consistency. I guess it's not really random, because I guess none of it is random. Well, like just we choose what thing to attack. Like we choose ultimately what our goal is, and I can't really think of. Well, I guess sometimes we like it's not short answer. None of it is randomized, which that I think that's probably for the best. But I don't know. Long answer. Sometimes we've tried to like get in from the public internet. We've been like, how are we going to get in? No, we're not going to fish. We're just going to look around and see what we can find on the public internet and about this, about the whole company. And sometimes we find something and we're like, oh, okay, we could try and get in here. Like, what the heck? I didn't even know we had this product, or like I didn't even know this thing. It's like, what even is this? Do we own this? Are we hacking a real company? No, good. We do own that. That's good. And it's like, in that way, it's like we don't really choose what the target is. We're just doing something like opportunistic, I guess. But I would be total fraud to call that randomized or controlled trial. So I'm not going to say that we do that.
I know one of the things that I observed like in red teaming when it comes to consulting is there does seem to be less randomness, and there's almost like a checklist that is like gone through. So you might start with, okay, well, let's just like try this really obvious thing that we know works like 90% of the time. And when that doesn't work, you move on to the next one. And basically it's really interesting to watch these things play out, because every time you end up with these like really interesting attack trees, and you can see how often certain scenarios are playing out and how often like based on defenses and tools that are already in place, people have to like subsequently move down that list until you're like scraping the bottom of the barrel of let's just find any plain text password and just spray it everywhere. And like, I think that's just in contrast to when you're internal versus consulting. And I think this goes back to something that Alex, you mentioned earlier. When you're an external consultant, you have the ability to look at a lot of different companies and engage with a lot of different teams who haven't had to go through the same set of trials time and time again. And so they haven't been slowly building up their defenses and understanding of how to protect against red teams and hackers. And so I think it's an interesting thing to observe over time.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess the risk of that is I can see the if you're only attacking to the red team, you risk like overfitting, like the machine learning thing. And it's like, well, we know how to defend against the red team, and like if your red team is perfect, then your red team is perfectly simulating every attacker, so it's fine, it works. But it's hard to be perfect. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know about you, but I'm perfect. So just kidding.
All right, I have a question from the chat. Israel is asking, Alex, have you ever been caught early on by the IR team? And how long did it take?
I mean, it depends what early is, right? I don't know what you count early. Like we've been caught before we like finished the objectives, yeah. But there hasn't been like a big sad like, hey, let's do the thing. Oh wait, never mind. We're not doing the thing. We got caught. It's not that bad. It hasn't been that bad.
And if and when you do get caught, and this is Israel's next question, if and when you do get caught by someone at your target company, how do you identify yourself? Do you have some type of get out of jail free card? I know when I've done like some physical stuff, they've like written a letter and said, all right, anybody catches it, then this person is supposed to be here and we asked them to. Did the company give you something like that?
No, because we don't do physical stuff. We don't need to. We don't have I guess the get out of jail free card is like the game moderator will like tell the incident response team, but like what can they do to us? Like ideally they don't even know it's us to begin with, right? Like they're like, oh, Unreal is attacking us, and we get to do the big reveal later, being like, it's okay, it was us, and they're like, oh boy, thank goodness.
So like the Scooby-Doo like unmask, like it was them all along.
Exactly.
I feel like this question would be probably more applicable to like consulting or like external red teaming for a company that isn't aware. Like obviously you and the IR team, you know each other, right? You're in the same group.
Yeah.
Whereas if you were kind of targeting another company, it's like maybe the security folk there don't know who you are or are not aware that they're being targeted because it's like a fully like closed test. So I guess you're right. There probably isn't much they can do to you other than kick you off their network. There are some interesting like news stories though, like coming out of the US I've read where like people have gotten subpoenas or, law enforcement have come to their door.
Yes, you just reminded me. They've actually, I can think of sometimes the game moderator, one thing they do have to do is when they don't know that it's us, they think it's a real attacker, the game moderator has to be like, wait, don't email the FBI or whoever it is. Don't email the law enforcement.
Stop!
Don't focus on us. It's okay. But that's it.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
for sure.
You probably noticed that my doorbell rang earlier, so I'm not going to answer it very pointedly because I don't want to know who's out there. But you're calling yourself the red team. We've been talking about incident response. Do you call them the blue team? Do you have a blue team? And do you have a purple team? What do you think about like team colors?
What are all these colors? What do they mean? Somebody answer me.
What is it with your kids and your colors? No, boy, you've really gone and started something, Lily, but sure, yeah.
When the knuckles crack, I get scared.
Yeah, I think that the naming your teams after colors is dumb because they're not code names. You're not trying to obscure the intention of the team. You would call those code names if you're worried about your enemies intercepting your communications and knowing what your teams do. But you're talking to your fellow teams, and if you give it a color, they don't know what that does. They don't know what that's supposed to be about. So like the red team could be the attack team, the blue team could be the defense team. It would be that simple. Do we still use the name red team? Yes, that is what my official team is called because that is what everyone else does in the industry. So I guess we have to do it. Sorry for posting cringe. I really like blue team because there's is the blue team the incident response people? Is the blue team people who wrote the code, the developers? Who is the blue team? And then all the other colors we're about to discuss, it's like a nightmare clown carnival realm I don't understand and I'm scared of.
I feel like the colors. This might be my spicy take, but I feel like the infosec color wheel is just silos for infosec. As we move towards wanting to be more agile, we've just built these
mush them together.
Yeah,
they're like, oh, we have red team and blue team. Now we have purple team because it's mushed together because we're removing the silos. And then it's like,
we've got developers and we've got operators. Now we've got DevOps.
DevOps, and then it all goes together. And then we have DevSecOps, and it's just it's too much. It's your kids and your naming conventions.
Your portmanteaus with colors.
I just want to know, the only thing I want to know is like, do the colors follow paint theory or light theory? Because
Oh,
Oh.
do you know what I'm saying?
yeah.
Like, I
Yeah.
just want to know, like, if you mush all the colors together, do they become white or do they become like poo brown? Very important question.
I guess it's light theory because
Oh,
It would
light.
have to be.
DevSec UX ops, love it.
No, just you don't have to say fin DevSec UX ops. You can just say I'm the only person in the company. That's fine.
You can just say one person show. It's simple.
Yeah.
It's big data microservices and whatnot.
I feel like we missed a very important message that just came through and appeared on screen, and it was that humans can't see pure red. And I feel like that might give the red team an unfair advantage against us mere mortals who work in AppSec and
That's
ProdSec and
quite unfair.
Oh, are they like the infrared team?
No, that's the infrastructure team who does the red team infrastructure.
Oh. Oh, yeah. No,
But
you're
in-
right.
I can't help but ask if that's actually a real thing, because I could definitely see
Someone's
that
done
being
it,
a
I'm
real
sure.
thing.
I don't know. I just made that up, but probably.
This is like the
I-
real
Everybody-
DevSecOps.
I don't know.
It's all too much for me. I simply can't. I have a question from the chat. One tall girl 78 asked, "What?" I'm going to kind of rephrase this a little bit, but what's one of the biggest myths about the red team and the things that you do? Do you find that you come across very many myths, or people just assuming you do things when you don't?
I mean, the first thing
feel
that comes to mind is the thing we already talked about, which is like the red team is some like chads who are out to like push you into lockers and make you look bad or something. It's like no, the red team are like your friends. They want to help. Like
That's
it's like
really
it's like a
traumatizing
consent-based
memory.
model. It's like you can just say no, and the red team won't hack you anymore. Like it's very consent-based. It's very they want to help. That's like the first one I can think of. I guess a myth is different to a common misconception. Another thing is because they're named colors, everyone red team means something different to lots of different people. So like some people red team means you physically break into places, which is fair. That's the word people use for that. Some people red team means you like do adversary simulation, which is more like what I do. But there's just one word for those things, so you don't know which one it is. You just got to know from context.
What's the difference between red teaming and pen testing?
I don't know because I haven't really done pen testing, but like some of you have, so maybe you can help me. I think my understanding is that like with red teaming, what people describe it's like with red teaming, it's like depth first. You find one way in and you follow it all the way to the end, and you don't have like alternatives. You don't recommend things. You just be like, here's what happened. You just like measure it. But like pen testing, you find many ways in and you like evaluate. You try and like predict what would happen if they were used and like kind of evaluate their badness. So it's like more comprehensive. Does that sound right? What do you all think?
Yeah, kind of. I think so. And then I've also heard pen testing described the way you were describing red teaming, and then the other stuff that you've just described as like an audit, basically. I feel like we have a real problem with terminology in this industry, and I figure we can solve it right here, right now, obviously. So that's why I bring it up.
Well, I think we solved it before. Anyone who is like toxic in this industry referred to as like a Chad.
Crypto chads. Immediately get out.
Just watching the spiciness meter gradually inch upwards.
Yeah, it's got to peter out eventually.
What is it? The Scoville scale or whatever? The
Yeah.
scale
Oh, yeah.
like the spiciness. It's
The
like hot
takes.
ones with anyway, it's fine. Beck, you have experience in this area as well. What's your opinion on like the difference between red teaming and pen testing?
In my experience, pen testing tends to be like, without getting into like what pen testing is, I think describing the qualities will be, for me, a better way of describing it. But like pen testing is normally like a tightly scoped assessment of something. And that can be like, if you're doing a web application, that will be testing for really common exploits normally. And then as you move or as your security levels improve, it becomes like trying to find and chain those bugs. And it almost like develops into, I'm not going to say like a tiny red team, but as you fix those low-hanging fruit issues, it becomes like, how can I turn this XSS into RCE by like worming my way through your whole web application? And then like when you're looking at internals, can also look different, but it's also, let's have a look at all of the different services available on all of our different hosts, and, how can we move ourselves laterally or is it vertically? I don't know how you refer to there's lateral movement, but then privilege escalation. There it is. That's the word.
The X and Y
elevating-
axis.
Wait till we get
and
quadrants, and that's when the consultants
oh,
charge a lot of
Lord.
money.
This is where we start to move diagonally. But I think pen testing can mean a lot of different things to different businesses and to different companies. And I don't necessarily think it's necessarily an issue, but I do think that the issue is when places aren't clear about what they're delivering for a client.
Yeah.
I think that's my spicy take, is that it doesn't matter how you define it, but you need to be super clear with your customers and your clients to make sure that's actually what they want.
Yeah, I feel
I think
like.
that's one of the best.
Oh, I was just going to say, it appears as though we're kind of all on the same page, where it's a bit of an overloaded term, but as long as your deliverables are clear, then that's kind of all that matters. Because I think even with DevOps and things like that, people just use words now. They're like, DevOps. I'm like, you use Puppet. That's it. That does not.
Or maybe you don't. That's the other thing that I've seen is in the DevOps space. That's just what you call someone who runs your domain controller now.
Oh, cool. Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like it's the words maybe not so important, more the outcomes and what it is that you're actually doing. Yeah. That makes
Yeah, I
sense.
like that.
Speaking of domain controllers, we have a question from the chat
boy.
that you might not be able to answer in detail, Alex, and just blink once for yes. Israel has asked us, during your engagements, have you accidentally taken down a production system, especially one that was mentioned as off limits? Do you have any sort of moments like that you can speak about at all?
Oh yeah, sure. We don't have off limits. We don't have scope. I've heard people talk about that. We
It's a very
do, yeah,
consulting based thing.
yeah, we don't have
Some of
that.
us who come
Sorry,
from
it's
that
not.
land.
Yeah, it's we do don't hack someone's personal life, I guess. But the whole idea is within the company, we want to give red team as much access, as much opportunity as possible, because then they can do more realistic things. Ideally they'd be able to commit crimes, which is kind of what you let them do by consenting to them letting hack you, right? So you want it to be a big scope. But we have our rules of engagement, or our what will happen plan, and one of them is red team accidentally takes down a production system, what will we do, and how likely is that? And we're oh, we're pretty bad at computers, could happen, we're going to try not to, but it could happen. I don't
So
think
have you done a big bungus?
I don't think it all the time, but in my professional life, I think we accidentally took down a non-production thing one time when we were trying. I was trying to make some crazy SSH malware thing work, and I wasn't sure if we had root access to edit the SSH server config file or not, or something, and I thought we didn't, but I think we did, and I was getting a lot of weird SSH requests to the server, that's weird. But it turned out, I'd broke some server, but it was not public space, some internal server we used for something. So it was that's how we got caught, and it was oops, we got caught. But then
Sounds
it was
like the malware worked.
Well, not really.
Not in the intended way, but
I don't think so. I think we accidentally sent all the SSH traffic to our server instead of to the real server. I don't know. I don't actually know exactly what we did. And
So just a medium bungus, not a big bungus.
well, yeah, pretty bad, pretty flub. But it was luckily this was after we'd done the objectives, so it was kind of okay. But I was oh no, I've ruined the up. But I was actually no, that's quite realistic. A real attacker would do that. They would totally do that. This is fine. This is science.
Yeah, for sure.
the science got done.
Yeah.
Cool.
Alrighty. Cool. Do we have any more cool questions from the chat? Let me have a little
We're getting
look.
some really good ones today.
Yeah, it's hard to pick them out. I'm just I don't know why I'm laughing. I feel like Lily really likes the word bungus, and I do too. Hence why I use it. It's the scientific term for when you make a whoopsie.
I'm deeply enjoying the term bungus. Please keep using it.
It comes from the words chigbungus. We have a question from someone in the chat. Rhiannon asks, does it ever get tiring to hack the same ecosystem / company all the time? Like, do you think you'll eventually get tired and switch to a different company that uses Windows or something like that? I don't think that a spicy bungus, that sounds a bit wrong. I don't think that the question is asking, would you ever leave your current company? But, you know, how does it stay fresh and interesting when you're constantly hacking the same ecosystem all the time?
I mean, probably in some ways. Like, I don't know. I haven't done I haven't had multiple companies, right? But I don't I think there are some parts that would be the same vaguely, but mostly it's a big company that the varying different things that we try and attack are like different enough that where I guess we haven't done Windows yet, but there are so many different parts and we just try and do a different thing that we haven't done before to test it out that we're not really running out of things to do. Also, they keep making new things faster than we can attack them, so it's not really we're going to run out of things. So but
I hate that. It's kind of rude.
Yeah,
the way
no,
that
I
they
love
just
it.
keep releasing new stuff. Why can't they just be done? You know?
You got to demonstrate value. You know?
Yeah.
That's the whole DevOps startup mantra, right? Demonstrate value, build attack surface essentially, so that you can sell it later.
No, I don't want anyone's mantra to be build attack surface.
No. That is the mantra now. Too late.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, jeez.
Golly.
Okay. Let's pull this back on to the track that we were ostensibly on, allegedly. No more bunguses, I guess. Actually, no. Sorry. We can maybe later. So, AppSec and ProdSec. Let's talk about those. AppSec, application security. You're talking mostly about networks and things, right? Or what kinds of access do you have to different applications, to production? How do you do that without actually exposing that kind of stuff to actual bad guys? Does anybody actually, particularly in an assumed breach kind of scenario?
Oh, as in what special access? We didn't have any special access. We
Nothing?
What do you mean? We just we have a different computer on a different network, and we have to do it for real, like a real attacker would.
That's
We
such
don't have. Yeah.
This is my inner pen tester speaking, because we probably come in and give us an example of an admin account, please. Thank you. Goodbye.
Oh, what special access do you have, and what do you do to make the incident response teams look the other way? And that sounds great. That sounds like I would love that. No.
Yeah,
Do you
I feel like
actually
some
ever
of
run?
us-
Sorry,
go,
Mimi.
you
You go.
No, you.
Do you ever actually run counter ops to make the blue team look in another direction while you're over here doing something malicious internally?
Not with that much planning. Sometimes we're oh, we'll do this, and maybe they'll be looking there while we're doing that, but ideally they're not looking anywhere because they were completely undetected, right? At the point where they're looking somewhere, it's probably kind of bad because it's quite hard to make it so your activity can't be chained together and eventually lead to all the activity. So I don't know.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Is it bad if I lost my train of thought?
That's normal. Completely
I
normal.
think that's fine.
And if you do,
On to
that's
the
live.
next question from the chat. Israel asked, do you foresee yourself switching red teaming and blue teaming periodically to help yourself stay sharp? And I guess maybe I might turn the question a little bit and ask, how do you stay sharp? Would you recommend that people in the security space not silo themselves and stick to one kind of specialty? Do you have to know a little bit about defense to know about how to do attack?
I stay sharp by eating a fresh mango every morning without exception for the last 10 years. But for security, I've already done this. I used to do blue teaming for a couple of years, and then I switched to doing red teaming. So I did the incident response. So I did catching people like me side, and then I started doing the other side. So I'm I think the holy, it's a trifecta or quadfecta of skills that are very valuable on red teaming for red teaming are the red teaming hacking skill, whatever that is, the like blue team understanding the like incident response and defense skill, and software development and being a sysadmin. Those are like the
Yeah.
things.
100%.
And-
I mean, I feel like for me, I do a lot of work with like graduates and interns and juniors that first come into the industry, and I find that a lot of young people come in and like first security job, and they're like, I want to do pen testing, and I have a hot take on this, and I try to tell people like, yes, you can do pen testing, red teaming, hacking, whatever it is, it's great, but I really feel like in order to be an effective attacker, you need to learn about infrastructure, you need to learn about like application development and things like that, and you also need to like do a bit of blue teaming as well. Like I really think that like doing a bit of defense, blue teaming, writing detections, incident response first can actually help you greatly in this area, because I think that I've seen a few incidents where people, well, not instances where people kind of come in, they're like, I want to be a hacker, do red teaming, blah, blah, blah. And then they're like, I know how to run Metasploit. And then they don't really like learn anything kind of deeper than that. And so I think like the holy quadfecta that you mentioned is actually really important. Like it's what makes a good security professional, if that makes sense.
I think you're probably right, but I think probably they all influence each other, right? Like it's better to have more than one of those skills than one, basically, for all of them.
Yeah.
I feel like as well. I feel like as well when you are a pen tester who maybe hasn't had other experiences in sort of product teams, it can be really hard to understand and empathize and balance giving feedback and working with ProdSec and AppSec teams to like actually come up with a meaningful resolution that's just not what the like OWASP top 10 says to do, which may not fit well. It's that whole like analogy of trying to put like those little square blocks into triangles. Like, sure, we can cut it into shape and jam it in there and that'll be fine, but it will basically like degrade security and security culture over time, and it'll be seen like security or seen as the adversary instead of like the cooperative part.
For sure. I found it really difficult like when I was early on in my career and I was like focusing a lot on vulnerability management, and I like part of my job, because I know that you were saying, Alex, that your job is to just highlight facts and not make recommendations or like not make judgment, but like sometimes in certain roles, like especially me coming from consulting, like my job was to make judgment and recommendations and to kind of like tell people what to do. And having a situation where you haven't been on the other side of the fence makes it a little bit difficult to make those recommendations, because they might come across as like not realistic, not achievable, or not like sympathetic or empathetic to like what the actual environment looks like of that company that you're working with. And I feel like being on the other side of that really helps you understand how things actually work. And as security folk, we tend to be very cut and dry about things like, this is bad, you should never do this. And it's like, well, you're never going to get risk down to like 0. So you need to balance that against like business needs and then kind of make that all work. Because I think that's where some of the defensiveness comes from. It's like, these security people come in and tell us what to do, but they don't understand anything about us and what we need to achieve. So,
The other one's like
it's hard.
budget as well, right?
Yeah.
That's the one I've seen. It's like often people can be unconsciously adversarial about some of those recommendations because like you're attacking something that is like this tiny little piece of like one customer's environment that they get like $1,000 a year to maintain. And you're like, we need 2-factor auth. We need like proper PKI infrastructure for this. And it's like, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And you're going to
now
need
what do you want me
someone
to do
monitoring
about
this 24/7. You're going to have to like set up a big thing with pew pew maps on the screen and like, you know.
Yeah, that's kind of why we don't do that. Like we make like my team, the red team don't make recommendations like that. We say like, here's what happened. We say this is what would have stopped us. Like this, like at various stages on the way. Like, hey, if this thing had happened, like if this had 2FA or different 2FA, or if this didn't have access to this or something, that would have stopped us. We don't say you should do that. Cool. You should do this. We say here's what would stop us, and it's not because it's because we don't know what they should do. We know what would stop us, but like obviously like turning out like to making sure our SSL ciphers are very mint and making sure there's a big like map on the screen shooting lasers everywhere. Like, sure, those things might stop us, or actual things that might help. I don't know, but like that might not be worth it. It might not be worth the like cost to like how much it slows things down, or like how annoying it is. Like
Maybe the map with the lasers might distract you for a little while, and you sort of like lose what you were doing, and
yeah,
you don't find the vols.
I've never used a pew pew map for anything other than bamboozling clients. I'm
Nice,
just gonna
yes.
say that. Like, I just don't. It's not realistic. Anyway,
I guess this is like I actually have like a question sort of relating to this and the whole, you know, empathy and giving advice. How can like AppSec teams, ProdSec teams, like whatever you want to call it, like developers, whoever you're working with, how can like what tips do you have for them for getting the most value out of a red team or a red team report or something like that?
I mean, it's kind of, in some ways, it's kind of hard. Well, no, it's not. From the terms of like actual software, there probably won't be that much about software in the red team report. It won't be like we explored this vulnerability, we don't really do that. But there will be some parts about like basically let the report be a cautionary tale of like a thing that may not have happened like your particular team or group or whatever. But like think about or try and figure out which parts also apply to me. Because that's like the downside of red teaming is we don't test everything with just one thing, right? And so we're kind of relying on people's ability to like generalize and be like, wait, that could happen to me also. And so instead of like waiting for a real attacker to do that, like you can just do the same steps that whatever team actually, software, whatever actually gets attacked does. So plagiarize is my advice, I guess.
you heard it here. The person who does the crimes is telling you to do more crimes. Unbelievable.
As well as
Not
conflict
sanctioned.
reduction. Are we keeping track of these?
Not sanctioned by us.
I want to see a supercard
Oh,
of
wow.
problematic trade Alex has had.
Well, okay,
Release support.
someone's asked, just real quick, has TLS 1.0 being enabled ever helped the red team?
I don't even know what TLS is, 1.0 is. Like, I guess I don't know anything about cipher suites or what they do. So, no, it has not, because I kind of in a situation in which, like, I've never been like, damn, we had to give up because the cipher suite, the SSL was too good. So, like, damn, that definitely happened.
Yeah, we couldn't get root access to that machine because, like, even though we had the password that they gave us over the phone, it was TLS 1.2.
Don't forget,
Yeah.
the S stands for secure.
Yeah.
That was a campaign that was going at a place I worked at for a while. They sent to all the people, like, the S stands for secure. If you see the padlock, it's good for ya. I'm like, no, sorry.
Yes and no. It depends. If we're
It
going to
depends whether
it depends.
Depends whether Let's Encrypt certificates are easy to get or not for my phishing page, but yes.
So I noticed that Alex, your connection's being a bit janky right now, and it's probably because the government is trying to stop us. So I wondered if this is a good time for us to talk about the giveaway that we mentioned at the top of the show, because we actually do have some stuff to give away, which is pretty exciting. Our backstage folks have the screen. Yeah. Whoa.
Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. Oh. Who's gonna win?
I love this.
Yay!
What,
Tolga?
Hey.
Great! You win a Burp Suite license for a year. And if I remember correctly, is this not the person that we converted to love SaaS tools?
Yep.
Do you see how
Well,
karma
almost.
comes back around? Do you see how it comes back around? That was also totally random, I promise. We had nothing to do with it. Hell yeah. You win.
Oh, that's so exciting.
Congrats. I love giveaways. I love to spin the virtual wheel. It's amazing.
And I
Please get
noticed that
confetti.
Alex's connection super sharp again right now for me. So clearly,
Because you threatened it, you know.
yeah,
Yeah.
You gotta call
We are
these
being
things out when you see them.
uncancelled. Yeah.
excellent.
The government operative in the middle was like, oh,
They're on to us.
That was too obvious.
We've been detected. Yeah.
Cool.
Alrighty.
Okay.
Cool.
All right. Well, let's just see. Does anyone have any questions? I think we're good.
Wow.
Alex, unless you had any additional insights on this topic that you wanted to share with us that we might not have asked the right questions or.
No, I'm just glad we didn't show the color wheel on screen. That's the only good thing.
That was a good outcome.
That's my take.
Yeah. No,
Okay.
someone made one, right? Like actual color wheel of all the infosec things.
There are many of
They-
them, yes.
There's
Just
more
Google
than
it.
one. Okay, good. And
Google
do they
infosec
all
color
agree
wheel.
with each other?
Of course they don't.
No.
There's
Yes,
12
no.
different standards. That's why we need one standard to unify all the standards. There are now
Let's
13
make a new
standards.
standard. Yep.
Yep.
I think that's what the second XKCOD reference for this stream. Anyway,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that sad? Am I a sad person? Or does that make
Uh,
me cool?
I mean, if you are, we all are. And I think that's how it works.
Solidarity.
this is such a despondent note to end this stream on. Oh my god.
No, it's we're happy sad people.
Yeah.
Imagine it's like, am I a sad person? Cut. Stream's over. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, go home, everyone.
All right.
Thank you for
Okay.
being with us today, Alex. And sorry.
That's such a good ending. Thank you. And also, sorry.
And also, sorry from me too for being hella cringe.
Yeah. Thanks, Alex. I think everyone got a lot of value out of this session. Some really good questions today.
And we didn't manage to tarnish the good name of OWASP.
Well, we don't know yet.
We
usually
that's
find that out
yet
later.
to be determined.
On that note, yeah, thank you everyone for joining us for OWASP DevSlop today. We hope you enjoyed the show. If you enjoyed the show, smash that like button. Don't forget to follow the OWASP DevSlop accounts on LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube. And that way you can stay up to date on upcoming shows. Join us for the next show on December the 5th or December the 6th for our Asia Pacific friends, where Nana will be talking to us, our North American team, about Kubernetes security.
And then we will see you next time.
Thank you so much.